everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. And we hope you're having a very, very happy Thanksgiving week and Christmas season. And I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Michelle's here.
Hey everyone.
And today we are here to talk about some of the non-Hallmark Christmas movies that have been airing on Lifetime, on Hulu, BET Plus, all over the place. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Some we've both seen, some I've seen, some Michelle has seen. So we're going to cover 10 movies today. So we got a lot of ground to cover.
Yeah, I was like, can I squeeze in any more? Then I was like, yeah, I think we're going up.
So how are you doing? Have you been enjoying the Christmas movie watching season so far?
Yeah, it's been interesting because normally my priority is sort of trying to get through the homework ones and then just everything else.
Yeah.
Whereas this year I'm going the opposite way.
Yeah.
So it's been interesting just sort of sleuthing, trying to find all of these different movies and what network are they on, and yeah, it's just been a lot more interesting.
Yeah.
There's another couple that have popped up in the UK here, and I think one is on Up TV. I have no idea how it happened, but on Paramount UK just dumped like a huge amount of Christmas movies, like 10, or there was a couple more this morning as well. So I've had to sort of try and find out where they come from and what network they're going on. And so I think one is Up TV. I've no idea what's happening with this other one. I'll send you it and you can maybe tell me. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
just interesting how we get them before you guys sometimes.
Yeah, this year you're getting the goods, especially one I've been so looking forward to. That it's like I wish I could my VPN. I wish my VPN would work so I could watch it for Paramount UK. Yeah, there's been a lot, and we don't claim to review every single thing on these non-Hallmark episodes. So if you have something that you saw that we haven't talked about, that you want to talk about, let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear about it. There's so many. And of course, I talked with Aaron about Christmas Story Christmas, our special Christmas episode that's on HBO Max. So if you want to learn more of my thoughts, at least on that, you should check out that episode. Also, I talked about the two Netflix entries this last week with Kristen Maldonado, my good friend. We talked about Flying for Christmas and Christmas with You. So there's if it might not all be on this episode is all I'm saying.
Yeah, it just seems like I'm finding out about all of these different streaming services because they've all got Christmas movies. I'm like, oh, what is happening?
It's true. Yeah, what was it? Finding one on, we had one on Crackle and the Meeting Mr. Christmas. We had one on, there's been one on Roku, on all kinds of things.
Oh,
Everyone's
gosh.
to be in on the game. But let's get started. Let's dive in. So let's talk about Sweet Navidad. This is on the 17th on Lifetime. Stars Camilla Bannis and Mark Hopka. Pastry chef dreams of opening her own pastry shop. Being paired with another chef for a grand event, they have to learn from one another and eventually come together to create a truly inspired menu in time for Christmas. So overall, Michelle, what did you think about this movie?
Yeah, so I'd seen this last year. And from what I remembered, I thought it was a pretty okay film. And so yeah, the rewatch pretty much confirmed that. I thought it was pretty much harmless. There was nothing sort of that really stood out in it. I do like Mark Happa's character was, not as angsty as I assumed he would be, as that sort of stereotypical sort of tropey thing that they have in these sort of competition dynamics. I felt like he was a lot more open to all of the different ideas and things that was presented to him. So I liked that aspect of it. I did think there was no sort of urgency. Like as they were counting down the days, I'm like, you guys have done nothing. Can we hurry up? You've not decided on anything yet. So I thought that aspect of it was a little like, because I worked in kitchens for years. That was actually what I planned to do with my life, but I just sort of wasn't enjoying it, so I stopped
Mhm.
doing it. But yeah, it was that sort of thing of like, yeah, I was just like, you guys need to like lock down this menu like ASAP. I think we got to like day 2 and they still hadn't done it, and I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, and I found this one kind of frustrating, to be honest. This one wasn't my favorite. I felt like they didn't really have great chemistry, and I found her character to be a little bit grating, and I would have been so annoyed with her for forgetting to put in her menu. Like, I
Yeah,
mean, it's not like she just forgot an item or something like, but to completely forget the entire menu, submitting it, like that seems her order. I think that seems very unprofessional to me. I mean, especially when it's supposed to be this big thing, and I know they're trying to sell her as like, oh, she's the home chef or whatever, but all the more reason that she would be wanting to prove herself and make sure that she got the order in on time. So that was definitely frustrating, and not that people don't do frustrating things. People forget big things sometimes in life, and that happens. But I just, it sort of added to this feeling of like, I'm frustrated with this woman. Like,
yeah, I get that. And it also didn't really feel believable that she would forget as well, because yeah, it felt like they were trying to sort of hammer home that, like you said, that sort of home chef type of, but that doesn't make her incompetent.
right.
Um, so yeah, she's obviously like been practically running her own business, side by side with someone else. So yeah, the idea that she would forget to put in that order was a little, much.
Yeah, and I don't really understand the appeal of this competition. Like, I mean, the only benefit is supposed exposure, I guess.
Like positive
Uh,
word of mouth, like a good review.
yeah, that seems like not a very good reward.
Yeah, yeah,
Is
you would think it would
to
be
have
like
to
a
work
cash
for
reward.
free on
Yeah,
Christmas.
yeah, like a cash reward, something they can put towards a business that would be
Yes.
make more sense, especially because a big part of the story is him, losing his restaurant and her
Yeah.
about to lose hers. So yeah, that would have been a little bit more motivation. Maybe they would have sped up them creating the menu if they were, a bit more motivated.
Yeah, like the big prize was you get to work on Christmas. Like, congratulations. That was strange. I also, this is a nitpick, but it did kind of bother me that I felt like they needed to get their hair up. Like, both of them have longer hair, um, both guy and girl, and they were just, it was always kind of like hanging out. I'm just like, oh, you're gonna be working in a kitchen. You need your hair back. It's not as pretty for the movie, but kind of annoyed me.
Yeah, I worked in kitchens, and yeah, the first thing you do when you step in is you put your hair up and
Yes.
you put a hairnet on.
Yes. And I understand not needing the hairnet, but like not having it actively like flowing, your hair, like have it back at least a little bit is
Hairnet. I was
necessary.
always very like paranoid about that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
always had it like back in a hairnet.
Yeah, because there's nothing more gross than getting a hair in your food. And they certainly wouldn't want to do this for this like big event. And I, I did like that they kind of worked in her Puerto Rican
Hmm.
heritage into the movie and into her food. She's making like empanadas and stuff like that, and so that was done pretty well. And there were some like fun moments of sort of enemies to lovers in the script. I just didn't love their chemistry. I found her kind of grating, and I yeah I so that was, and then the hair thing.
The hair thing was the big stickler.
Yes, that's next. So I would give this one 2.5 crowns.
Yeah, I would give it 2.75. But yeah, I pretty much feel the same way about it. It's
Yeah.
nothing spectacular here.
All right. Well, I'm gonna do one that I saw that you didn't see. This is it is on Great American Family, but it's also on Hulu. So that's the only reason we're talking about it. It's A Merry Christmas Wish. And like I said, you can watch this on Hulu. And this stars Jill Wagner and Cameron Matheson, and it's a New York City advertising executive returns to her hometown to sell the family farm, but instead reconnects with her childhood friend and gets involved with organizing the yearly Winter Wonderland, which takes place on the property. So I like both Jill and Cameron a lot. I think they're really fun people, and Jill's been very supportive of the podcast and everything. And so I really do enjoy her, and Cameron has been in a bunch of good movies, but this one was rough. This was not great. I mean, I don't mind a movie that's super tropey, that's the city girl going to the country. I don't, some people that's like an immediate turn off, not for me. Like it's kind of what you do with that
Exactly. Yeah.
then matters, like if you have the banter, if you have the chemistry, if you have the, I can really enjoy, like I love Miss Christmas, for example, where she's from the city and she goes to the country and meets the hometown hot widower. I love that. So it can be done very well. This is just not the case with this. Like this movie was work. It was so slow and so like they had like okay chemistry, but there was just nothing to like, I don't know, to hold on to in this movie. To the plot was so generic. The banter wasn't interesting. The characters weren't interesting. I mean, the most of the time was just planning this festival. And so that's not my favorite. And yeah, it was rough. So
Oof. One to skip. One to skip.
Definitely skip. I would give it like a 1. It was not good. Maybe a 1.5 just for Cameron and Jill. But
it's frustrating when you have the actors but you don't have the
script.
The script or the creative sort of juices that you need for these films, because they are all made out of tropes. It is just like you said, it is what you do with them. Because that there's a few movies that we're going to talk about tonight that they're just all full of these same tropes, but unless you've got like an idea of what you want to do to stand out, then they could be really rough to get through.
Yeah. I mean, and it's been fun this year with Hallmark getting a lot of different ideas, like Three Wise Men and Golden Dragon and just the Christmas Ghost of Christmas Always, these sort of new, fresh ideas. I love that. But I also really love like a classic Hallmark movie, with that's very predictable, but when it's done well, when we have that chemistry, when we've got the banter, we've got all that stuff, then all of that becomes charming, and when we don't have it, it just becomes rough. So I would not recommend checking this one out on Hulu. And I don't know, they just seem to love putting Jill Wagner in these planning movies, and she's so talented that I think back to the Maggie's Christmas Miracle, where there was so much heart. It was such a lovely movie. And so maybe what they need to do is get back to Karen Kingsbury. Find one of her books and they do that.
Yeah, that was one of my favorites that year. It was good.
So good. Luke McFarlane was great.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
Let's talk about A Country Christmas Harmony. This was on the 18th on Lifetime. Brooke Elliott, Brandon Quinn. And it's country superstar Chrissy Kessler is forced by her record executive to return to the hometown she left behind to perform a live Christmas concert. While home, she runs into her ex and former performing partner, Luke Covington, who she left behind years ago. So we had Brooke on the podcast, which was super fun. I'm a huge fan of her. So that was I mean, I don't fangirl often, but that was one that I was pretty excited for. And I thought she was great and enjoyed talking to her. And overall, I enjoyed this movie. I thought it was very sweet, and I liked the music in it, and of course they have great chemistry, Brooke and Brandon. And I mean, this is probably actually a good example of sort of doing your tropes, but doing it really well. There's nothing like super original, except for I did think I found the ending refreshing. It was a little bit different, but it done very well, very swoon worthy throughout. What did you think of it?
I liked it. I would have liked a little bit more music.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I would have liked a little bit more because I felt like we really only got those, couple of songs, and yeah, I would have just liked to have heard a little bit of a snippet of what she had sort of done before this sort of pop thing had come out, and sort of seen, what she was doing without Luke.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to add it, just to get an idea of what kind of country artist she was. I feel like I needed a little bit more of that. But yeah, I love country music, so this was yeah, I was sort of, primed to love this one. Thought, yeah, their chemistry was so good. I mean, they're on that show together, aren't they? So yeah, they've definitely, got sort of an affection for each other that you can definitely see on screen, and that is so helpful sometimes. And yeah, I really liked it.
Yeah. I actually thought there was quite a few songs for this kind of to have. I think they had like four songs, two, but I think they were kind of squished together. So maybe that's part of it, because they had Santa Sleigh and then there was Jingle Bells, I think, and then at the beginning, and then there's a little bit of time, and then at the end they've got Sweet 16 Christmas and the what is it called? What's the other one called? I can't remember, but there's like a non-Christmas song that that they sing together. That's like their song. But yeah, they were kind of grouped together. So I think that maybe is part of it. But I did think Santa Sleigh was very funny.
Really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just looks so cheesy.
And she said that was a hoot to do. It was a lot of fun. And I can imagine that would be really funny to do this like pop cheesy Christmas song. That was fun. I do think that he was maybe a little bit too harsh. Like, I realize this is a second chance romance and he's bitter, but like he was really, really harsh to her when when they first see each other again. Like, that's a great moment. Like, they pause and look at each other and like the world stops for like a good 30 seconds. Like, it was a while. And like, oh wow. But then, when he says that you don't have an ounce of authenticity to you, and he's pretty mean.
Yeah, he's pretty mean. And I did like the sort of her talking about why she, couldn't come home and why she'd stayed away. And,
Yeah.
I find sometimes that's a little hard to land in these movies, but I feel like they really did it well in this movie. And like you say, a lot of the tropes that, I mean, it's sort of sad that it's a trope, but they do have the sort of widower thing as a trope, and the family member that adopts a child. That's another trope that you see a lot in these movies.
Yeah.
But
That's
again, I
true.
felt like it was done up, really well and really thoughtfully in this movie.
Yeah, he's not a hot widower. He's like a hot widower uncle.
Yeah.
Which is even hotter, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he like didn't have to do it, but he did, which is very, very sweet. He's taking care of his nephew, and but he is, well, like once they get to that conversation where they're really talking, they're hashing it out, what happened in the past, like that's really great. But just this first meeting, they have this really long stare down, and they can't believe that each other is there. And then he says that this concert is just a publicity stunt. She doesn't care, and he's pretty upset with her. And then they end up getting caught in the storm together in this place, and
On
that
outside the window.
yeah, that creates a lot of cozy moments that I liked. And she says, I was afraid if I came back I wouldn't have the strength to leave again. So and he says the key to writing a good song is 3 chords and the truth.
Yeah, such a classic country quote.
That was a good line. That's good. Yeah. And I didn't know that Brandon Quinn could sing, but I thought he did a good job here.
Did a really good job.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like their
I'm
duet.
surprised that he doesn't have much experience by the sounds of it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he does, and I just am not aware. But I didn't know that he was the singer, and I thought
he sells it.
did a good job, with the duet and everything. And that's just like so swoon worthy, is this guy, like he's very in touch with his emotions and his feelings.
Well, he's a songwriter.
Yeah, songwriter. Then we have this, again, they're in this left out in the storm, they're talking, and he says, let's make a deal that you write the song and then I will do anything you want. And and so he wants her to put on this like concert for the town, just for the town. And they say, let's pretend we're back together just for tonight. And they dance. That was, I thought, really nice little scene.
Yeah, I like that. And I'm glad the sort of ex-boyfriend just sort of appears and disappears again, because I could not have put up with him for like an entire movie.
Yeah,
his energy was on another level.
Yeah, Brad Love.
Yeah.
And so they have a kiss in this pretending time, which was fun. And he says, how can I resent my past when you're my past? That's good. And then she gives him the lucky guitar pick that he had used, and she had become a star, I guess, whatever, on it. And then he writes Sweet 16 Christmas. And that's when Brad Love shows up. And I feel like if you're going to do the ex-boyfriend kind of trope like this, archetype, where you got kind of basically a bad man of business, like make him funny, like they did here. Yeah, I think. And then they almost have another kiss, but yeah, that's when Brad Love interrupts them.
This is the type of character that like Christopher Russell is good at. Like,
yes,
just the absolute buffoon.
Yeah, I know. I miss some of our leading men when they get the upgrade to leading man status. I know it's good for their pocketbooks and their career, but I feel like sometimes we lose. Like, I'm so happy for Marcus Rosner that he is, a leading man now, but I kind of miss, he was so good at being the wrong guy that I kind of miss it. Like, and Birthday Wish, like that. He's so funny in that movie. He's so clueless that it's funny. But they say, you are my past, present, and future. And the thing at the end that makes this unique, so they have the concert, and he says, what would you think of me moving to Nashville? She's like, well, would Brady want that? and he says, "Oh, you're like his favorite person." So of course he would. And he says, "Wherever you are is where I want to be." Oh, I love
So
that.
good. Yeah,
Because
yeah.
we get so often in these movies, we get the I'm not going to move for you
Hmm?
kind of like plot. Like that's the big conflict of like, oh, we love each other, but we live in different places. And I'm just over that. And so this saying, I don't care where I have to go. I want to be with you. That is swoon worthy.
Yeah, yeah, agreed.
Mm-hmm.
That's such a difficult that's such a difficult plot to handle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and a lot of times you don't want to lean too far into the sort of fairy tale of, I'm going to give up my entire life to go with this person. But the thing is, you have to make the relationship believable and work. If that doesn't work, then the sort of giving up of everything doesn't work either.
Yeah.
If you understand, yeah.
Yeah, we don't want a to bring up our Heartland podcast. We don't another Lou and Peter dynamic
Oh,
here.
jeez, yeah, we've got enough of that coming in season 16, I'm sure.
I give this movie a 3.75. I did enjoy it. It's pretty basic except for that ending, but I had a good time with it.
Yeah, I'll join you on that score. Yeah, I was just looking at the writers, and I think this is their first TV movie.
Oh,
Um, and that's just really impressive.
yeah.
That's very impressive. It's their
Well,
first time out. So yeah, I agree with that score.
well done. All right. Well, let's check off one of yours that you saw that I didn't see.
Hmm?
Let's talk about planes, trains, and Christmas trees. And I'm so frustrated that I haven't been able to watch this movie because I've been looking forward to it all year. Because when we gave Christmas on Fifth Avenue the best non-Hallmark Christmas movie award last year for Hallmarkies Podcast Awards, they were filming it and they recorded their acceptance speech in their elf outfits for this movie. And so I've been looking forward to seeing it, and it's not being released anywhere here yet. I mean, I assume it'll come to Paramount Plus eventually here in the United States, but you were lucky and you got to see it in the UK. And it stars Catherine Davis and Olivia Renaud, who of course I loved in Christmas on Fifth Avenue. And it's during a business trip, event planner Kaylee and sports agent Brett find themselves unable to fly home for Christmas due to a snowstorm. Determined to get back to New York City by Christmas Eve, the two team up to try to make their own way home. So, what did you think of it?
I really enjoyed it. I
Oh,
really enjoyed it.
yay.
And I think it's really obvious, like when two actors like each other and
Uh-huh.
like working together. Like even in the early parts of this movie, they just have like a kind of sparkle together.
Uh-huh.
Like there's a scene where they're just kind of looking at each other in the hallway, and it's just the looks that they're giving each other. You're like, yeah, these people genuinely like each other. That comes
Yeah.
across on screen. I will say they did have two things in this movie that I don't typically like, but I feel like they really made it work. One
Uh-huh.
was it is a planning movie,
Uh-huh.
so they do get sort of stranded and sorry, in Oliver's hometown, and they sort of have to take over the planning of the local festival, Christmas
Oh,
festival.
really?
Yeah, so
I thought it was like a road trip movie with
it
the
starts off
name.
as it starts off as a road trip movie, and it sort of tricks you into thinking that.
Oh,
But then
interesting.
it sort of turns into, a sort of forced proximity because they can't leave because of the weather.
Uh,
So they're sort of stuck in there. They're doing a lot of planning. I will say that their sort of fun, bantery dynamic make it work because there is a lot of humor and they just work really well together.
uh-huh.
And then the other thing is that she does have a boyfriend, and that's
Ah,
another thing that I'm not a big fan of, but he only exists in text messages and on another side of the phone that we don't hear, so it's a little bit more, he's not actually a character. He's
yeah.
just sort of on the periphery, but unfortunately that does create like um that does make the relationship very much non-romantic openly between them, because there is that, like, he knows that she has a boyfriend, so he's not going to cross any lines, or he's very respectful of that throughout the movie, and that does last a significant amount of the movie. And there is this kind of subplot of his sister and her husband having marital issues, and their daughter is a big part of the movie as well, and that just felt a little bit shoehorned in, because it didn't feel like we were getting enough information on that relationship to really care, because the husband only really comes in towards the end of the film. So yeah, that part didn't really work for me, but pretty much everything with Catherine and Oliver is so worth watching in this movie. Like, they really should work on a movie together every year. They are so good. And yeah, like, good job on you for spotting it the first time out, and them as sort of a duo, because they do really work together. It does come across on screen.
I would love to know the backstory of this, because I was beginning to think this must be terrible. Like, if nobody's wanting to release it, must be really bad. Like, I mean, think of things they do release. And then this one, I was just so puzzled, and now I continue to be puzzled of why this didn't get picked up by any of the networks.
Worst thing you could say about this movie is that it's very tropey, but you can say that about all of these movies. Something, it might work for me, it might not work for you. It's a completely, down to your taste and what works for you in these movies. And for me, like, the majority of this movie works because the majority of this movie is those two actors together.
Yeah.
And their dynamic really works. They sort of elevated what they were given. I wish that the sort of boyfriend wasn't a part, and we could have had a little bit more romantic scenes with them, because it felt like the script was very clear that nothing obviously romantic could happen between them, and
it is risky naming your movie Planes, Trains, and Christmas Trees, because I mean, you're talking Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is one of the, like, icons. I mean, that is just classic. So you're putting the expectation that it's going to be an incredible comedy when you give it this very similar name. So I don't know if that was a barrier at all for some people.
Yeah, and it is interesting because that title, their train gets cancelled. Sorry, their plane gets cancelled. They go try and get a train. They can't because of the weather, so everything is shut down travel-wise. They've only got a car, but then they can only drive so far as the hometown of Oliver's character. So then they're just kind of stuck there the rest of the movie, just waiting on a plane. Yeah, it is very deceptive in that aspect. That it's very much not a road trip movie. I expected it to sort of be, sort of in the vein of those, kind of road trippy movies that we see of them stuck in a car together.
Well, I really want to see it. Please, please, please.
Let Rachel see it. Give her a screener.
Please.
Give her a screener.
I'm dying to see it. Please, please, please. So I'm glad you were able to give your review.
Be a little vague. I don't want to ruin it for you.
Thanks. But how many crowns would you give it?
I would probably give it a 3.75.
Good.
Yeah.
That's good. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the good folks at Baker Publishing Group. Looking for the perfect gift for the romantic book lover in your life? These contemporary romance novels will woo their way into your hearts. First, we have To Win a Prince by Toni Shiloh. Fashion aficionado Iris Blakely dreams of using her talent to start a business to help citizens in impoverished areas. But when she discovers that Econ Dilo will be her business consultant, the battle between her desires and reality begins. Can she keep her heart and business intact despite the challenges she faces? Have to read to find out. Next up, All That It Takes by Nicole Deese. After moving cross-country with her son and accepting a filmmaker's mentorship, Val Locklear is caught between her insecurities and new possibilities. Miles McKenzie returns home to find a new tenant is living upstairs, and he's been banished to a ministry on life support. As sparks fly, they discover that authentic love and sacrifice must go hand in hand. Pretty Little Spaces by Carmen Schober is sure to please. Georgina Havoc's dream of a happily ever after falls apart when her boyfriend blindsides her with a pause. She is determined to pick up the pieces of her previously perfect life, but with the reappearance of her troubled twin sister, plus the presence of a ruggedly handsome ex-sniper, she's left facing not only her shattered future, but also her past. Looking for Leroy by Melody Carlson, Brianna Phillips is ready to give up on love, but when her fellow teacher invites her on a trip through Sonoma wine country, she is reminded of her first crush, whose family owned a vineyard there. Is there any chance she can find him? And one last chance for love? Next up, The Sweet Life by Suzanne Woods Fisher. Jilted by her fiance, Don Dixon, escapes to beautiful Cape Cod on a groomless honeymoon with her mother. But she didn't expect her mom to risk everything on a whim to move there permanently and buy a rundown ice cream shop in need of repair. Of course, in order to make their new life work, they'll also need her ex's help. Finally, The Last Way Home by Liz Johnson. A disgraced former NHL player and a local artist are thrown together when her pottery studio burns to the ground on the day he returns to Prince Edward Island. But as they work together to rebuild, their secrets will come out, putting even their hearts on the line. So head over to bakerbookhouse.com/featured/Hallmarkies to pick up one of these great books and use code Hallmarkies40 for 40% off these titles from November 14th to December 12th. That's bakerbookhouse.com/featured/Hallmarkies and use code Hallmarkies40 for 40% off. Give my quick thoughts on two more of the Great American Family movies that you can watch on these. Both you can watch on Tubi. And so if you don't want to, watch on, you can watch on Tubi. And it's Destined at Christmas. This was the first one that came out, but it's now on Tubi. With Shay Robbins and Casey Elliott, and basically it's about these two people that meet Black Friday shopping, and they have this kind of, it's basically a serendipity kind of connection, and but they don't get each other's name and information, so then they spend the movie kind of trying to figure out who each other are, and it's a cute enough movie. It's a little bland, but it's probably the best one of any of these that I've seen so far from them. So that's that. I would give it 3.5, I think, for Destined Christmas. And then they have A Royal Christmas on Ice. This again is also on Tubi. It's Anne Marie Dobbins, Jonathan Stoddard, and it's basically this prince comes to this small town he's going to start this business, and there's this former Olympic ice skater. They meet, and he's going to he wants to take down the ice skating rink and build, I forget, condos or something, but and then Billy Baldwin is also in it, involved. This one was a snooze. This one was not great. The last 20 minutes when they're really getting into ice skating and more, because there's a lot of this movie spent off the thing, and that was more fun, the ending, I would say, but I would still probably give it 2 crowns. So I would skip that one. But let's talk about Santa Boot Camp. This on the 19th on Lifetime. Rita Moreno, Emily Kinney, Marissa Jarrett Winokur, director Melissa Joan Hart. And its event planner, Emily, is sent to Santa Boot Camp to find the perfect Santa for mall magnate Ed Mancini's Christmas. While there, she meets Belle, the boot camp's drill sergeant with a heart of gold, who helps Emily rediscover the magic of Christmas. Now, when I was talking with Amy Winter, I said, I made the point that why would they have this boot camp during Christmas? They would need it to be sooner so that then the Santa could work during Christmas, right? But they did kind of cover that in this with the whole, it's for this particular party. That it wasn't to be a mall Santa. I mean, it would still make the most sense for them to have the boot camp in July or August to be prepared. But they at least kind of addressed that with this. But what did you think overall of this one?
I enjoyed it. I expected it to be a little bit more bonkers and a little bit more kind of over the top. But I think overall, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I feel like they used Rita really well. They used Marissa really well. And Emily I've seen her in The Walking Dead a little bit. But it's not really a show that I enjoy. So, but I'm sure I've seen her kind of here and there on that.
Well, she's in I would say a somewhat controversial Hallmark movie, if those exist, is Love on the Sidelines, that a lot of people really don't like. I like it. I think it's cute, enemies to lovers, but some people just think he's too much of a pig for them to like it. And I understand that. But anyway, she was really cute in that movie, and I'm glad to have her back doing Christmas movies again, because I don't think she has done one for a while.
Yeah, and she's definitely got like the energy for these type of movies.
Yeah, she does. And I thought that they did a pretty good job with the transformation. Because that's one of the rules of boot camp is being transformed by the holidays, and not just looking your regular self, but transforming into basically White Christmas, the end of White Christmas. Her Mrs. Claus kind of outfit was really pretty impressive. It was good. And the red lip, she rocked the red lip.
Yeah, I mean, she looked incredible. And they definitely pulled off that moment between them when he sees her for the first time.
Yeah.
Like that they sold that really well.
Yeah, and there were cute moments between the two of them. Like when he makes her dinner, she's like, "I've heard of the naked chef. I've heard of the whatever. I've never heard of the singing chef." It's cute. I thought. And they had like enough kind of cute activities, because I was worried that this was going to end up being like the Christmas camp, which is one of my least favorite. Where like the big activity was walking the owner's dog. I mean, like no fun activities. This day, at least, they were like painting nutcrackers and like other fun activities for the Santa boot camp.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and it was sweet when she interacts with that deaf girl.
Yeah, I really like the sort of, giving, deaf actors, space and they took their time with that in this movie. And really, it usually just feels like it's sort of shoehorned in some cases, but I feel like they really, gave it space in this film.
Yeah, I agree. And I've never seen a tree auction like that. People were like bidding. This is Douglas fir, 100, 200, whatever. That was kind of funny, I thought. And then also, I mean, I'm a big fan of like the sexy dough kneading scene where they're like, they have to be like leaning over each other. And, like, it's so ridiculous, but I love it.
Yeah, I was just waiting on it. And I was like, what have you never needed dough before? You need to be taught.
Well, one of my favorite Hallmark movies of all time is Recipe for Love, with Sean Roberts and Daniel Panabaker. They have a very good sexy dough kneading scene in that movie. I mean, I joke that it's like Hallmark's version of the ghost pottery scene.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was fun. It was too short though. I was like, oh, they cut it off so soon. I could have had more sexy dough kneading. I thought Marissa Jarrett Whittaker had some funny lines. Probably her best was, "There's no ugly Christmas sweaters. That's just a myth perpetuated by the media." That was a good line.
Yeah, she was really fun in this. Yeah, she is very similar to like her actual personality. Yeah, and her like natural energy was really, really well used in this film.
Yeah. I mean, because she won Big Brother, Marissa Jarrett Whittaker, so she's got a pretty bubbly personality that's able to win over people and things.
Mhm.
But it was Celebrity Big Brother. She won. But and of course on Hairspray. But that was funny. We do get we live in different places, but we can't be together conflict. He's not going to move. And so that's what we get the near kiss in there. And then we get the final, basically there's this guy that she's going to Santa boot camp for to help plan his party to get like the perfect Santa or something. And they end up making this party kind of the final project for Santa boot camp. And what did you think of Rita Remainder? Do you think did you enjoy her role here?
Yeah, I actually was surprised they used her so much. Because I imagine she, I'm amazed that she has gotten to where she is in terms of her age, and she's still so active in her career and just like absolutely killing it. But yeah, I'm surprised that she was such a big part of this, and I'm glad she was.
Yeah,
because
like
sometimes they
originally,
tend to just put a big name on a movie, and then you tune in and they're there for like 5 minutes.
yeah, no, that's very, very true. And it was interesting. Amy said that originally this role was planned for Betty White.
Oh yeah.
And so it was supposed to be made a couple in 2020, of course, and then she passed away. And so then they had to change. I don't know if I needed the flying car at the end. That was a little much. It's just kind of like, what are we? It's Grease all of a sudden. Here's what I want. But Emily gets the MVP award. And then of course she decides she's going to stay there. And so then they can be together. And then we also have it becoming this, originally it's going to be $1,000 a plate ahead event. And I'm sure that absolutely does happen, but still, I think that would be on the high side for even like a pretty expensive, dinner. Like, I mean, I guess if you're in like Beverly Hills or something, maybe.
Yeah. My taste isn't that expensive.
Yeah. The most expensive meal I probably ever had was a multi-course meal that was this special chef who had been brought in. It was $76, which it was a good deal because it was a lot of courses and stuff. It was amazing. But yeah, I'm not a fine diner person. Usually I'm like that kind of fancy food. I'm like, I need more sauce. Bring over more. It's like so sparse. You end up hungry.
I'm not a fine diner either, but I do watch MasterChef and things like that, and I'm just like so critical, even though I would never eat any of the food. I'm just, oh, this is terrible, as if I would ever actually eat it.
Yeah. So what would you give Santa Boot Camp?
I would give it a 3.
Yeah, I'll say 3.25, but basically on the same page. It was fun. It was like it'd be right in the middle of the pack for me as far as my Christmas movies this year. Yeah. So all right. Well, let's talk about Christmas Party Crashers. This is on BET. It stars Sky Townsend, Jamie Calica, and I have a bone to pick with BET because for some reason they do not allow their new movies to be casted. So that gives me no choice but to watch them on my phone, which I hate doing. I don't like watching movies on my phone. I like to at least be able to cast it up to my television. And I mean, I just feel like it's very disrespectful, but literally they won't allow you. It says this movie is not available you can't cast it. It says too early or whatever. And so I don't like that. BET Plus, if you're listening, please don't do that. I want to be able to cast your movie so that I can watch it on my television and not have to watch it on my phone.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
You feel like most media players now have that option. So yeah, it's strange that
Yeah.
And I don't understand why, because it's new. Like, that makes no sense.
Yeah. Like you think you would want people to be able to cast it.
Yeah.
Why you can force them to watch it on their phones. Very annoying. But I do think Sky Townsend and Jamie Calica are an incredibly attractive couple. They are beautiful, both of them, and charming. Very nice personalities. This was a great match. I would love to see them in even more movies together. But the plot is when two grifters meet after crashing the same millionaire's Christmas party, they agree to work together to achieve each other's mission, not knowing that they would find something more than money or fame, true love. And I think that for the most part, this movie works. I think they're so good, charming. The idea of the crashing the events to try to get she's got this like app that she's trying to sell, and I forget what it was that he's trying to sell, but anyway, trying to get connections with these people, and I mean that's totally a thing, especially in Los Angeles, that getting into that party so you can meet the right person who'll give you the first, because a lot of the hardest parts of being in, it seems like in a lot of these industries, is getting that first gig, that first thing. And then once you have one, then you can get another and another, and it kind of helps. But so I understood that. The BET movies, they really lean into the melodrama. I've learned this now after watching several. They like in this movie, there's like a whole love triangle with the woman that he is trying to impress. He's trying to get a job from, and there's this other woman, and then her, and so they create this love triangle, like you say, and that was less effective. I don't know. Like, I appreciate them wanting to go into sort of camp, into soap opera, like theatrics. But I don't know. It's just an interesting, I guess it's interesting to see that that's kind of their take on these movies, is to kind of be sort of soapy and to have the cat fighting and the melodrama always. And I mean, at least in this one, I felt like the guy was worth it because Jamie's so great. So like I can understand. but I think they could tone it down a little bit. And I think it does sort of highlight maybe some acting weaknesses on the part of some of the cast, because that soap opera dynamic can kind of amplify that a little bit.
Yeah, are the actors soap opera actors, or
I don't know if I don't know if they're soap opera actors, but I think some of them have done like the kind of soap operas that you see on OWN or BET, or like Tyler Perry. He has these kind of soap operas that he does. I think some of them are on those kinds of shows, which is fine. I have nothing against that. It's just I kind of wish they would sort of maybe lean a little less to it. Maybe that it gets a little much, maybe. And so, but it's just something I'm realizing is just a part of these movies, is they like that kind of melodrama and love triangles and catty women and stuff like that. So, but this one is the best of that they've done so far this year. And I loved Sky Townsend and Jamie Calico together. They are a great match, and I hope they do more movies together. So I would give this one 3.75.
Nice.
Yeah.
Ho, ho, ho. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch-alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind-the-scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
Well, let's talk about A Show Topping Christmas. And this is on Lifetime. It stars Jamie Perez and Thomas McDonnell. And it's Riley, the artistic director of the Noda Theater in Massachusetts, learns that the theater's Scrooge-like owner, Regina, is preparing to close the theater. So she calls upon the ghosts of Regina's past, present, and future to change her mind. Meanwhile, Riley casts a big TV star, Sam Palmer, who has moved to the area to escape as Bob Cratchit in A Christmas Carol. So overall, what do you think about this one?
I was excited to see this one. I really like Thomas McDonnell. He was on The 100 years ago, but he hasn't really been in much since. So when his name sort of popped up, I was really, really excited to see him in this. But yeah, he definitely has that sort of CW leading man sort of energy. So I was interested to see if that would sort of carry over into the sort of TV movie world. And I think he did a really good job for his first one out. And I hope that they keep using him. And Jamie Perez, I believe she's relatively new to the Hallmark sort of lifetime type movies as well. So yeah, I thought she did a great job. And I think overall, considering the amount of A Christmas Carol we're getting this year, I feel like this one did a pretty good job of, telling their story. And making it as enjoyable as they could. Like I said, we've just gotten so many of these this year. I don't know what's happening.
It's really funny.
It's like an onslaught.
Yeah, because I mean, we always get one or two kind of Christmas Carol-esque, but this is like
we'll need to do
like
a tally of how many there actually is.
Yeah. But I agree. I mean, this is definitely on a lower budget. This is an acquisition, had a different title last year. And so I think you have to kind of take that into account a little bit in sort of the overall budgets of the movie. But I thought that Jamie did a good job, and I also liked Thomas. I mean, I ended up interviewing Jamie, and she was very sweet, and I enjoyed the interview. And so I think that she has a lot of potential to be in these movies. I could see her like being in Hallmark movies, being in Lifetime movies. So I hope that they kind of I hope they see that she did a good job, and I hope they see her potential and continue to cast her, because I think that she's a good actress.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I do hope that they, especially when they have so many acquisitions, I hope that they pay attention to the ones that really sort of pop and the ones that the audience really connects with, and sort of really invest in their careers and sort of bring them back, because it's sad when you get someone that you really, really like and then you just don't see them again.
Well, and of course I like this movie because it is kind of a love letter to local theater, small theater, and that's something I really believe in and I really love. In fact, when I interviewed Jamie, I actually was I ended up being just a little bit late because I was coming from having seen live theater. So it was like the perfect I mean, she was super nice, patient with me. But yeah, I was actually returning from live theater. And I like that they had that kind of community spirit throughout the whole movie, and I there were some decent lines in this movie. Like I just really, especially I never thought I'd hear the words thrilled and condominium in the same sentence.
That was a good one. That was a good one.
Because of course they want to tear down this like historic theater and build condominiums.
Yeah, it's always a condo.
There's no other land, evidently. It's always the land of the the historic theater or historic church or community center or whatever. And I thought the rehearsals were fun. The practicing of the play were really fun. All of that kind of captured that gift that live theater is to the community.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice. And then I liked Sam's character, was pretty fun. He's a lead on the show Lovable Strangers, which I thought it sounded like a valid show. Lovable Strangers. And he's a movie star. And they kind of go on a date, and he's like, maybe I'm just a nice guy, which was cute. And he says, I love watching your face because you care so much about everyone else.
Yeah.
And she gets kind of mad at him because Regina is his aunt. And so he's trying to help her with the sale and everything. And supposedly this theater will sell for $3.5 million. It's like, I'd sell it too. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I think they
That's
got a little bit
money.
carried away with the numbers there.
Yeah.
They're like, what was it? 2 million is too less, but yeah, 3.5,
I mean,
that's spot on.
wherever in Massachusetts this is, that's a very expensive town. That was funny. And
Yeah.
I mean, I was a little bit annoyed when she's like, you lied to me. I'm like, oh gosh. I was a little annoyed there. And they definitely, I think, the movie took itself a little too seriously at times. It's like, this is just supposed to be sort of light, and it went like heavy.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, like, I think, I don't know if I was just being a little bit oversensitive, but I think when you have a character like Regina who you're trying to make your Scrooge, it's a little bit difficult when, she's coming to work in a place that, by all accounts is a bit of a money pit. It's not bringing her any joy, and it is, a sort of living, breathing, constant reminder of her husband that passed away. And then she just wants to retire, and just go, live, her life and sort of find peace. And
Yeah.
so when you have someone like Riley sort of constantly pushing her, I feel like they got very close to sort of crossing a line with Riley. They didn't quite go there, but yeah, I feel like it could have been very easy for them to sort of push that a little bit further, and just been like, this poor woman is like just wants to be free and just wants to have a little bit of peace. And but yeah, I feel like having that sort of, it being about the theatre and something like that we can all sort of understand why that should be, sacred and protected, helped Riley's character quite a bit, because we understand and we also believe that building should not come down. What's the theatre should continue. And yeah, so that was my sort of gripe. It's not really a gripe because it didn't actually go there, but it was something I was concerned a little bit about.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, let the woman like retire in Boca, like she deserves it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I and there were like some, I thought all the leads were all solid. There were some not as great sort of backgrounds and other performances, supporting performances, and that goes into the budget. So you kind of have to accept this is not on that same budget as like a Lifetime, or I mean, it is on Lifetime, but a regular Lifetime movie. But I overall enjoyed it. I would give this one 3.5.
Yeah, I would go with that as well. Yeah, 3.5.
Yeah, I think we're almost done actually. Okay, so we just have one more left for you to talk about with Saving Christmas Spirit. This on Spirit Network, starring Ashley Newbrow and James Robinson. An archaeologist discovers the importance of letting a little festive wonder back into her life and finds both history and love. What'd you think?
Yeah, so I was again a little bit nervous going into this because we've had a few of these, set in Scotland Christmas movies, and some tend to, work better than others. And I think for me, this is, I think this is maybe the third or fourth one that we've had. I mean, the one on Netflix, was it last year? I mean, that was
Yes.
kind of brutal. That was brutal.
Brooke Shields.
Yeah, with Brooke Shields and Carrie Ellis doing that accent. Yeah. So yeah, so that was rough. So this being the sort of one to follow that, had a lot of, high expectations placed on it by me, probably unfairly, but here we are. I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with it. It was, filmed in Scotland. You can definitely tell that they sort of hired, I guess, locally. It would be interesting to find out how they went about casting this movie, because the entire movie pretty much takes place in Scotland. There's only two characters, so you have Ashley Newbury's character come to Scotland. She's an archaeologist, and she's coming to sort of try and find artifacts that can save her job, because her job is at risk, and there's cuts, and she might be one of the people getting cut. So she sort of has to make a big discovery. So she lands in Scotland and tries to sort of find this sort of ancient shrine. And I do like that they did inject a lot of Scottish history, and that is sort of a tropey thing of like a, kind of comical thing of like everybody in Scotland knows like a folklore, or that anybody you talk to is like an expert in whatever folklore is sort of local to them. But I do like that they did bring in some actual real Scottish folklore. There was a big part of the movie was the Bura goddess, which is the goddess of the winter, which I had never heard of. So I'm even learning stuff watching this movie, and that's sort of
I'm learning about my own culture.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, they're sort of she's sort of trying to find the shrine to the goddess, and that will save her job. And then you have Duncan, who's our love interest, played by James Robinson, who I hadn't seen in much, but he's definitely, worked a bunch, and it's got a bunch of credits. So it'd be nice to sort of again see him pop up in another one of these movies, because he definitely has leading man energy. I feel like he's very spoony in this film, and yeah,
so she's from out of town, so she doesn't have to have an accent.
She's American.
Yeah.
So
okay.
there's only two Americans in the film. So she comes to sort of find these artifacts. She stays at a bed and breakfast, and she sort of has a romance with Duncan, who is the bed and breakfast owner's son. And there's also his nephew, who's also American. So that was another aspect of the film that I really liked. You have his nephew Finn, who's I believe around 17, 18, and you have him and his love interest. And I get a little nervous when they bring the teens in, because they can lean a little hard on the angst, but these kids are just so like lovable and nice. And Finn's sort of big plot in the movie is him trying to get a girls' rugby team for his love interest, because he sort of rightfully sees how unfair it is that she is more talented at rugby than the majority of the male team, and she can't get a team just because they don't want to, and it's really unfair. So yeah, that aspect of the film, wasn't a huge part of it, but I did enjoy it, and I felt like those actors were really, really likable. And sort of Duncan's main sort of part in the movie, other than sort of showing Ashley Newbury's character Lucy around, is he has a distillery with whiskey called Christmas Spirit. The title of the movie. It all comes and it is a little bit of a save the blank when it comes to the distillery, because he's in financial trouble. And
is it like the Scientific Farmer though, where he's like making the like
the whiskey has already the whiskey has already been created. It's actually I feel like there's so much happening in this movie, and I'm sorry if I'm being a little like all over the place.
Yeah.
There is Christmas magic in this movie.
Oh.
In the form of Duncan's father, who is a ghost that comes around at Christmas and basically like sort of nudges them all. And it's played off as like a joke in the beginning of the movie of like, Duncan's mom sort of in the sort of it's all sort of in her her way of, you know, dealing with the loss of her husband, as she believes that he comes around Christmas and sort of helps them.
Oh, that's
But
creative.
but as the movie progresses, you actually physically see things happen, you know, like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, things will just randomly fall, and then it just escalates. And it's really down to you whether you are all in on that, if the ending will work for you, because they do push it a little bit kind of far, because it gets a little bit Santa-y, I'll say.
Yeah. So what would you give this one?
I'm gonna give it a 4, just because I really, really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had, like I say, a few of these movies, and this is the only one that has really worked for me. And I will say, if you are a fan of Scotland and you just want to see beautiful, you know, landscapes, then this is a movie for you. They use
Hmm.
so much beautiful locations, and there's the sort of famous Harry Potter railway that you sort of see, the Glenfinnan Viaduct, which is the sort of bridge that you see in Harry Potter when they're going up to Hogwarts. So they use that quite a bit in the movie, and they actually go there. So yeah, if you just want to see how beautiful
Mm-hmm.
Scotland can be,
Mm-hmm.
watch this movie. And I
Cool.
believe it will be actually Newbury tweeted about it, because I think some of the cast were even surprised it was on the UK before it got anywhere else. But yeah, I think December 23rd on AMC Plus. It will be available for
Mm,
US
okay.
viewers.
Well, we'll look forward to that. And so let us know if you've seen any of these movies, what you thought. I know we covered a lot. If you're listening, we'd love to hear your opinions in the comments or on Twitter. And Michelle, how can people find you?
On Twitter at Michelle R. Benson.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. Also, make sure you're following the podcast at Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all of our social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave us your ratings and reviews. That really helps us so much. And if you are listening on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have our Patreon group, which is the best way that you can support us. And we really appreciate, we have watch alongs and other perks that make it worth your while. And then we also have the merch store, which has tons of fun festive designs. So please take a look at that. And thanks so much, everybody. We'll talk to y'all later. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.